that real quick before we speak about Mark Diakese that fought yesterday. So UFC Executive Vice President of Content and International Relations, David Shaw, was on a media run here in the UK in London. And he did some press conference and he answered some questions. And one of the questions that he answered was the likelihood of UFC Africa happening. And he gave a very vague response, a very vague one, according to what I'm about to say. So I have some tweets here I'm just gonna show you guys now. Yeah, so this tweet's from Aaron Bronstetter, who is a reporter for TNT Sports. He said, Shaw says that the UFC is making progress on an event in Africa, but there's nothing definitive to report. He is confident in saying that mid to late of 2024 or even 2025 will be the time frame for an event in Africa. Speaking about where it would happen, he also went further and said Shaw named South Africa, Rwanda, Senegal, Cameroon as potential countries that could have a type of venue that could have the type of venue that would host the UFC event. He says that a lot of fighters, Israel, Usman, Dricus, have been campaigning for the events to be in their particular countries. Okay, so we are Nigerians. Right? This is a topic, this is something that we've been talking about for a long time. We are Nigerians. We know that we don't have the infrastructure to do like an arena event unless we build a makeshift stuff like something like AKO is doing, but I don't think that's going to be efficient enough for the UFC. But if they want something to be built, Nigerians are more than capable to build something on a beach or something on a location. But again, our weather is very unpredictable. Dana White did not do a stadium event in the UK, even though it will gross more in ticket sales just because of the uncertainty of the weather. I don't think they would agree. They would agree to do something like that in Lagos and be like, okay, come and build some seats for us, and I think it's highly unlikely. But now let's look at the other things that VP Shaw said. He said South Africa, Rwanda, Senegal, Cameroon. So why Cameroon? Is this like a big FU to Francis Ngannou? I don't understand why Cameroon is in this list. I think maybe it's something to do with Ngannou. But regardless, these three.
No, go on.
So I was going to say these three nations, South Africa, Rwanda, and Senegal, most especially Rwanda and Senegal, they have like world standard arenas that were built very recently, Dakar Arena and then the Kigali Arena in Rwanda, respectively. These arenas carry more than 10K. But there's an issue of there are no fighters that are coming from those areas. But let me just throw this to you, Mayowa. This is a topic that you like. This is something that we've been talking about. What do you think UFC Africa is going to happen? Nigeria?
South Africa.
Where?
Especially, and you know what? Remember when we were talking about this, Dricus was still not even, I think it was ranked initially at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dricus is ranked. Mm-hmm. It's a no-brainer. South Africa is where it has to be. It's easy. They have the infrastructure there already. Dricus is the number one contender. You have the Cameroon Simon as well. You have guys like Temba, even though it's South Africa, he trains out of there. No-brainer, man. If they want to do it, if they want to do it next year, like they're saying, from mid next year, South Africa is easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they can plan that easy and Dricus fight. Main event, easy work. Easy.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing about South Africa, right? Dricus one side is Dricus B side, Israel Adesanya A side. Let's assume hypothetically that is going to happen, right? So UFC Africa, when the Western people or when Dana White hears about UFC Africa, they are all big fans of Rumble in the Jungle when like Muhammad Ali came to Zaire, the current Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, did a huge stadium event. It was like one of the highest selling pay-per-views of all time. It was literally like an Africa. It felt like Africa, basically. This is a very sensitive topic for me to talk about. But in South Africa, right? South Africa has two types of fans of sports, right? If you go to a rugby event, it's mostly the white South Africans that are watching it. If you go to a soccer event, a football event, it's mostly a black audience watching it. Now, there is an MMA promotion in South Africa called the EFC. EFC has loads of black fighters, but when you watch the event, you would see that the crowd is dominantly white too. But we lost we lost Toby there, but I'm going to finish my point. So my thing is, do you think if UFC goes to South Africa to do a show, and do you think that's the type of vibe that they want? They want to see that white audience, if that makes sense.
Do
Or
you know what?
on another
Go on.
Mhm.
Go on.
Question number 2, maybe you just touch about it, right? Now, because Dricus and Izzy have beef, most especially with that racial undertone going on, the crowd there are likely going to boo Izzy and cheer for Dricus, which is going to look very awkward again. To non-Africans, not to us, because us we already understand. To non-Africans, when they see it, they'll be like, "Well, is this actually UFC Africa?" Does that make sense? Because that's the picture that they have about UFC Africa. But you tell me what you think.
So this is the thing you have to gauge, and I don't know how active you are on social media. You are, because you guys run your brand, so you're active and you see how you see people talk about Africa, right? And I think you have to gauge it. So you think about when they now say that we're going to Brazil, for example, we're going to UFC, we're going to do Brazil, we're going to do all these small countries in Europe, Poland, whatever, right? And when you talk about Africa, you talk about it in a monolithic way. So I don't think their perspective is as nuanced as our perspective, where it's like, oh, Africa is mostly black and South Africans might be white. And I don't think they're going to consider those things. Right? I think, especially now that Dricus, with the way that fight is building up, they have to go that way, right? When they get there, and I think about infrastructure, right? Yes, I know Zena has all the dreams of doing the Rumble, the Juggle vibes, right? But if you truly gauge it, if the UFC is going to pull up a fight within the next year, they have to do it in Africa, right? You have a promotion that is there, that's popular. I remember what the UFC does when they go to all these countries. They stream a lot of guys from local promotions. Right? Okay.
They put them in the undercard, yeah.
Undercard, right? Easy to do with the EFC. Very, very easy, right? And you want to go to a country where you have fighters from that country in the UFC, right? The other countries you can use Nigeria and Cameroon. Difficult countries to figure out infrastructure-wise in the short-term period, right? For me, in my opinion, the only way Nigeria can work is if they say, listen, government or a private investor wants to partner, a place like National Theatre in Lagos, they rebuild that as an arena and do the event, right? And they've done this in Nigeria in the past. Like First Stack was built for for that competition, right? I think tennis competition, whatever it is at that time, right? I don't think that's something that they can work on in the next year or two in Nigeria. Cameroon is a similar idea, right? South Africa, the iron is hot right now. Dricus is the number one contender in the division. Cameroon Simon looking like a world beater right now, 3-0. You have guys like Temba, again, not South African, but the trains out of South Africa, EFC veteran, Gachal and Diambula. There's so many EFC guys that have come, done match, can come back into the UFC. They have to do it this way for the first event. Now they can from that time start to expand and say, oh, let's do a PI in Africa. Let's develop in Nigeria and Cameroon and Izzy and these guys be ambassadors. Right? But if you want to get an event in the next 2 years, it's on the platform right now. They have to South Africa right now. It's annoying to me because a lot of black people, a lot of fans, and this is what we talk about even with the AKO show, a lot of guys can't afford to go to those events. They have to fly across Nigeria. I'm going
to we cannot get visa to go to South Africa very easily. But so there's that, right? If it happens in South Africa and Izzy fights, Nigerian fans cannot get there, right? Because
but remember the Nigerian fans, the Nigerian South Africa too, and don't underestimate how energetic we are. Whether the crowd, whether people get tickets to the event or not, Nigerians will be behind it. And the UFC, they will see it in the UFC pages, they will see it on the YouTube, they will see it.
Oh yeah,
the noise will be felt.
Yeah, there's a lot of us, just like Tumbosun Oyenuga here in our comment section. He says Izzy doesn't care about the visual look. How about what the visual will look like, basically? Lol, he doesn't care. He basically is talking about Izzy doesn't care about if there's a certain audience.
He's saying Izzy doesn't care, but the visual will look somehow, essentially.
Oh yeah. Basically, and then we've got Simon, UGUK, Adesanya versus Strickland, then Chimaev, and the winner of Pereira Blahovic for the light heavyweight belt. Then a rematch with the loser of
Well,
Pereira versus Blahovic.
that
Let
is a crazy schedule for
Duplessis run to top 5 middleweight gauntlet. Simon is here doing fantasy booking like WWE, man. So
He's given
this
he's
time
done
was
four
Strickland.
fight schedule already. It's crazy.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Simon. Yeah, you guys keep the comments coming. We'll go answer them one by one. Yeah. So just to put the nail in the coffin.
What do you think about it?
Yeah. So I think I've been saying it as well, right? When it comes to infrastructure, it's already there. However, EFC in South Africa have not done an event outside of their PI since COVID. Since they learnt about, we could do events in our PI, they had like, I think EFC 200, which is like supposed to be one of the milestones EFCs, and they still did it in the PI. And the PI is a small place. But regardless, there is already that MMA culture, right? I know they've got arenas in South Africa, but I don't think they have like huge arenas. They've got like 10K arenas, like the Sun City one. But regardless, it's still a place. How would the UFC gross money wise, basically, if it comes about like ticket gross, it wouldn't be, the tickets cannot be expensive because people would not buy. It would have to be so it would have to
in this year.
No. But UFC sell out in Brazil, but they now also said it. When UFC do business in Brazil, they are not going there for profit. They actually spend money to go to Brazil. So yeah, that is how Africa is going to be like. If they come to Africa, they are going to spend money. And yeah, South Africa is strategically already there. Like what you mentioned, the fighters are there to fill out the undercard. The fighters are already there that are already in the UFC. You guys keep on forgetting JP Bays. Last I checked, JP Bays is still in the UFC roster. I don't know what his visa situation is right now. As you said, Temba Gorimbo as well. Igu Kabesa is at a point where he wants to leave EFC. I think he's likely going to join PFL, but we don't know yet. And again, broadcast partners, which is Supersport. They are already in South Africa as well. Yeah, so it looks like it will be South Africa. But what I'm going to do next is now, Toby, sorry we didn't get you to drop your opinion. But what I'm going to do now is speaking about UFC in South Africa and Cameroon or wherever. I want us to make a case